Today is all about connecting with your clients, and we're going to show you how to deepen those relationships. Stay tuned. This episode of Keeping It Real is brought to you by Real Geeks. How many homes are you going to sell this year? Do you have the right tools? Is your website turning soft leads into interested buyers? Are you spending money on leads that aren't converting? Well, Real Geeks is your solution. Find out why agents across the country choose Real Geeks as their technology partner. Real Geeks was created by an agent for agents. They pride themselves on delivering a sales and marketing solution so that you can easily generate more business. Their agent websites are fast and built for lead conversion with a smooth search experience for your visitors. Real Geeks also includes an easy-to-use agent CRM. So once a lead signs up on your website, you can track their interest and have great follow-up conversations. Real Geeks is loaded with a ton of marketing tools to nurture your leads and increase brand awareness. Visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod and find out why realtors come to Real Geeks to generate more business. Again, visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod. And now, on to our show. Hello and welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I am your guide and your host through the show. And in just a moment, we're going to be speaking with top producer Josh Myler. But before we get to Josh, just a couple of quick reminders. Please help us grow by telling a friend. Think of another realtor that you know that could use some of the wisdom that Josh is about to impart to you, and he is going to impart an incredible amount of wisdom to you. Send somebody you know a link to this episode. So you can always send someone over to our website, keepingitrealpod.com, or any podcast app. Search for Keeping It Real. Hit that subscribe button. Leave us a review. Let us know what you think of the show. And also, please support our sponsors. Our sponsors are the best. We love our sponsors. They are the reason we can continue to make episodes and pay our bills. Check out their products and services and consider investing in them. We thoroughly vet them and only have sponsors on here that we know could actually help you grow your business. So, all right, guys, enough from me. Let's get to the main event, my conversation with Josh Myler. Today on the show, my guest is Josh Myler with the agency in Beverly Hills, California. Let me tell you more about Josh. Prior to joining the real estate industry, Josh began his sales and marketing career 15 years ago in San Francisco in the .com arena. He quickly established himself as an asset to both small and large companies, developing and managing sales and marketing processes for both internal and external sales teams. Josh also goes where his clients need him to go. There are a vast number of micro markets throughout Los Angeles, and knowing how to define value in each of them is integral to Josh's ability to help his clients transition from one area to another. And Josh is also very active in local school, civic, and charitable organizations. He's a member of the National Association of Realtors, the California Association of Realtors, Beverly Hills, Greater Los Angeles Association of Realtors, and the combined LA Westside MLS. He's a top 1% producer, absolute superstar. And please visit his website, joshmyler.com, JoshMyler.com, and follow him on Instagram. And I'm going to spell this out, but there will be a link to this in the show notes. Or in the description rather, Josh Sale Myler, JoshSaylemyler, link in the notes. Josh, welcome to the show.
DJ, what a nice introduction. Thank you for that. And thank you for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet with you. We had a bit of a challenge getting us together. Josh's mic was having some tech challenges. We had sent Josh the wrong link, and so it all sounds very calm now. But Josh and I were scrambling for the last 20 minutes. So I appreciate Josh's patience. He's a good man, and we are excited to finally have you on the show. Tell us the journey. How do you get, it's so funny. I always think, there's that little kid part of me that always wanted to go to Beverly Hills and be a Beverly Hills, actor or, some sort of celebrity. I think every child has some minor fantasy of that at some point in their life. And then to become a realtor and then to become a Beverly Hills realtor, I always think is there's something kind of cute. And I don't mean cute in a pejorative way. I mean, like in a very impressive way. I think
Yeah.
it is really a difficult place to plant your flag and to be somebody because the competition, of course, is pretty fierce. So I'd love to hear the entire journey of how you got to where you are.
Oh man, where do I begin? I really was on a very, very serious path to med school. I was a pre-med at Berkeley. I fought tooth and nail to get that degree, and then in the end, I just decided as I was graduating, I was going to take 3 months off, and I met a friend of Elon Musk's, and Elon and his brother Kimball were starting a company there first, and they needed an analyst, and they thought, okay, well, let's hire this kid out of Berkeley. And so it started as kind of like a summer gig while I was deciding whether I wanted to take the MCAT and go to med school. Long story short, that started a very sort of brief stint. I think about 5 or 6 years in the software industry. And that's where I cut my teeth in sales and business development. And then about 3 months before the .com bubble burst, I said, I'm out. I'm done.
Smart.
I hate this.
Smart man.
Oh, I mean, I got to tell you, it was very, very lucky because then 3 months later,
it was all gone anyway.
All my buddies were like, we're going to reinvent ourselves and go, do whatever it is we want to do really with our lives. And I had made that decision really based on following my heart and saying, I don't like doing this. I don't care how much money I'm going to make. And at that point, my oldest brother actually was living in Pasadena, and I came down here just to visit him. And, when I was growing up, I'm from Northern California. And so I had never spent any time in Southern California. I came down here, DJ, and I was like, this is it. This city, the weather, all the obvious things about LA, I was like, this place rocks. So I actually just, because I had enough money in stock options from my, tech days, I just took about 3 months to decide what I wanted to do. And inside of that 3 months, while I was just kind of figuring it out, a friend of mine introduced me to a woman named Beth Stein. And Beth Stein was the general manager of the Beverly Hills Coldwell Banker office. And at the time, I was like, I'm not going to be a real estate agent. There's no way I'm going to figure out how to get to med school. I talked to Beth. I talked to a few other people, and I thought, I could do this. This sounds like it might indeed be a good fit. So I dive in, and I'll never forget one of my first, I was paired with a mentor, and one of my first days out, showing was with my mentor, and it was like training day. We get in the car.
Hands you a gun.
Hands me a gun and a joint. And anyway, yada, yada, yada. We end up walking into a house, and the showing was with Tommy Lee.
Oh my goodness.
And he didn't tell me who we were going to see. We just
didn't give you the heads up that
nothing.
One of the most famous rock drummers of all time, you're about to walk into it, and one of the with one of the craziest personas,
totally,
a public crazy persona. Yeah.
Yes, and it was wild just to be, again, as you just touched on a moment ago, to be all of a sudden throwing myself into real estate, throwing myself into Beverly Hills real estate. And then the first showing really I go on with my mentor is with just a mega rock star. It was just a great, fun day. And I thought to myself, okay, I could do this. Now, of course, The preceding 5 years were not Tommy Lee and rock stars. It was
Sure.
getting down and dirty and earning my stripes, and
Wow.
keeping my head down, making all the calls, sending all the emails, networking in the way that a new agent should. um,
It's
yeah.
a pretty incredible switch, though. Oh, and by the way, I just want to add, I'm gonna one up your. It's not even a one up; it's a silly story. But my
Yeah.
mom, funny enough, my mom. This is 20 plus years. This is during the Dr. Feelgood album year. So I'm
Oh
gonna
yeah.
say this is probably 1990 uh 1993, something
Hmm.
around that time. I was in high school. My mom was here in Chicago. I'm sorry, the audience, this is just the silliest story that ever happened to our family. My mom is at this very fancy hotel waiting for a friend. It's called the Drake here in Chicago. It's like this world renowned
Hmm.
hotel, and it's a really fancy and whatever. So my
Yeah.
mom's sitting waiting. My mom's very much a lady, by the way. I'm gonna preface this by saying my mom is very much a lady. And
Uh-huh.
and this disheveled gentleman comes over to her and pays her a very nice compliment. And my mom recognizes that he is probably some sort of celebrity. Well, because of the way he's dressed, but he sort of looks a little bit out of it. And it turns out it was Vince Neil of Motley Crue, and he gave her his phone number, and he gave her.
Oh
And my mom was
wow.
very polite. He was very polite. He was very nice. But my mom was,
Wow.
I think I just got hit on by a rock star. This is
And it's
many, many,
Vince
many,
Neil.
many moons ago. But
I got to tell you,
we both have a Motley Crue connection.
yeah, seriously. I
So
mean, in
silly.
in the '90s too. I mean,
But
that's
but
big
but
time.
I
Yeah.
I am interested in you in your in sort of the switch on your life path, because I too went into college with a desire to possibly become a doctor, and I bailed out
Mm.
pretty fast. You went all the way through. You did the organic, inorganic chemistry stuff.
Oh
You
my
did the
God.
hardest
The
parts, and then
worst.
the
Yeah.
worst. You had the worst time in college because of all the studying you had to do that everyone else didn't have to do,
Yeah.
and going on to that path, the MCAT, then of course into med school, and then getting into technology with with the Musks, and then getting out of technology and now into real estate. That is a big swing right there.
Yeah. Very circuitous, as I say. And I got to tell you, DJ, I wouldn't do it any other way. I
Yeah,
wouldn't change a thing.
yeah.
There are moments where I look back, or moments when I'm driving around, as most real estate agents do, we live on our cars. And I'll be driving around the city, and I feel very blessed to be able to do what I do. And I feel very grateful for the success that I've had. Yet still, I have these moments where I think I would have been an amazing doctor. I don't mean that. I don't mean to sound like a jerk. I really do. I was thinking pediatrics or cardiology. And by the way, what was driving that part of me is my dad was a cardiologist. My mom was a retired nurse. So I
Mm.
grew up around the hospital. So there was that. Um, and I do have that sort of second heart pang for maybe what could be. But the truth be told, I really wouldn't change a thing. And the path that took me through software sales and high tech straight into real estate. It's funny, but I guess we all have our journey, right?
It's
And
that
all those,
it sort of
yeah,
sounds like you have a little bit of that they call that servant's heart, right? Like that, I'm here to serve. I am here to be of service, which
very
of
much.
course people who have that tend to be attracted to healthcare, real
Mhm.
estate, lots of industries actually. So it seems like it actually would be probably a pretty good fit.
Yeah, and I actually have a note on that. I was just listening to a podcast with a guy named Michael Singer, and he was talking about the pursuit of happiness and how we achieve ultimate happiness. And there are a number of answers. There are a million answers to that. One is be of service. Get out of your head, get out of your day, whatever kind of doom and gloom you're experiencing in that moment, and go make sure someone else is happy. Go make sure you are doing the best you can to help someone else. And that is, in my view, and for me, has been a great source of happiness. The other thing that he said that I thought, and this is DJ, just a side note, that I thought was interesting is he said that in all the studies that he did, um, that happiness for a lot of people comes from getting what you want, right? Most people would say if they get what they want, they're happy. And he argues that, getting what you want is a moving target. And so if you are going after something that's a moving target that's always changing, you're never really going to be happy. And then from a sort of more ethereal place, he talks about how inside of all of us is this river of happiness. And if we just succumb to it, jump in the river and drown in happiness, it's there. Instead of don't make it conditional. So anyway, that's a side note. And that's part of what kind of drives me in this business, just to segue back, is, we all have hard days. We all have those shitty days that, prevent us from getting out of bed. And one thing that really has helped is focusing for me on my clients. It's never about the deal. I mean, sure, it's fun to do transactions. It's great to get in the, in the depths of that deep end of the pool, if you will, with the other agent. We're going back and forth and negotiating. The search is also fun, right? But the matchmaking and the figuring out how there really is a buyer for every house and a house for every buyer. And then even more so, seeing the look on that person's face when I just had it yesterday. Someone walked into a house, one of my houses, one of my listings, and she kind of whispered. She didn't think I could hear her. She whispered to her agent, so should I just tell him? Should I tell him?
This is the one.
And she walked into the kitchen where I was standing. She looked at me and she had those eyes that I just love, which is, this is the one. Yeah. How do we make this work? It's the best. And of course, that's just the beginning, right? You got to get through the escrow. You got to close the deal. But there is really nothing like making someone happy and being a part of that process.
There is something to the magic that you just very, very elegantly described, and I'm glad. I was there in that room as you were describing it, and I appreciate you doing so, because I think that's some of the intangibles that we don't talk about a lot on the show. We talk a lot about strategy, and that's great, but being able to bank some of those experiences to remind ourselves when times are maybe more challenging that this is what can happen. Seeing somebody's eyes light up, making a transaction happen, maybe even a first-time home buyer, going from renting to purchasing is quite a day. So there's a lot of accomplishment and fulfillment and happiness. You're talking about Michael Singer. By the way, if anyone isn't familiar with Michael Singer, read books that he has written, because it is a fascinating story of a technology guy who's also spiritually bent, and trying to figure out how to be in both worlds at the same time. And he probably does it better. He probably did it better than anyone I know.
The Untethered Soul. The Untethered
Soul. Yes.
That's a great book.
Yeah. So let's but I do love the fact that you are connected. And I think that's really important. How important is it for you? Again, we know that there's mechanics associated with a real estate transaction. There's negotiating. There's a lot of, there's numbers. There's a lot there. But you're really clued into the experience, I think, of the buyer and the seller. And I'm curious, I want to talk about that, because you play in a slightly different level. You're working with high net worth individuals. These are Beverly Hills, places. These are nice homes. What's different about working with sort of that kind of clientele versus a layperson who's not living in Beverly Hills?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that it's probably the number one thing I think about when you ask that question, DJ, is experience. The more high net worth people, this typically isn't their first rodeo. right?
Yeah.
So there's less hand-holding in one way, but there's always hand-holding, right? A first timer is going to be fearful of things that are different than the guy who, or the person who is more experienced in the realm of doing the deal. So an example of that is, first I've got a couple right now who, they're getting beaten by all these other cash buyers. They're getting financing. And I think we've written 4 offers now, and they just can't figure out how to win. And the fatigue is setting in. And all the while, I'm kind of, in a way, smiling on the inside because I'm watching the evolution of their experience happen before my eyes. It's heartbreaking to lose what you think is the one, but I know better. And they are starting to learn what that process is like. And I'm such a believer. I call it fatalistic or what have you. But for better or worse, I'm a huge believer because I've seen it and I've experienced it, that there truly is, when it's right and they're ready and the house is ready, it's going to be the best one of all, right?
Yeah.
So you take them through this arc of, wait, what is an escrow and how do we do this? And you're teaching, which I really enjoy that process, versus someone who's really experienced and they get fearful of, I think, different things, fearful that the other side isn't being honest, or there is something wrong with the house that no one is going to be able to figure out, and they're not going to be able to figure out, and you have to kind of coach them through more of an experienced perspective on fear. I would say I really do try to make them feel like they have a guide. No matter who it is, no matter whether it's a first-time buyer or someone who's buying their 10th house, I want them to feel like I've got the rudder and we're on the river and we're all in the boat, and it's my job to keep us all in the boat. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. I've said this, talked about this a lot on our show, so I apologize to our audience who maybe says, come up with something new. But for anyone who is newer to our show, I had an experience 2.5 years ago where I bought a condo. It was not my first time buying a condo, and I also work here at an agency where we have almost 800 agents. So you would think that I would, and I'm not a practicing agent myself, but you would think with the amount of surrounding myself with agents are just around me all the time, whether it's this show or my job. And I was buying a condo and I was freaking out, and I needed somebody to calm me down and tell me what to do. I needed a coach. I needed a helper because I was representing myself. And I finally said, well, this is silly. I need to have somebody else objectively looking at this because I'm way too connected. I'm way too dysregulated. I was going through the ups and downs of as a client would. And
Yeah.
my boss stepped in and he's like, I'll take it from here. And it was really, really smart because what I think I'm curious about being able to emotionally comfort someone through a transaction. And we tend to not think of these skills as important as obviously knowing the market and understanding negotiating tactics, and obviously those things are important too. But we don't talk enough about the emotional side of it. I mean, these are still big purchase decisions or selling decisions for your clients, even though it's not their first rodeo. I assume oftentimes there are teams of people as well that you have to, many masters to serve. So I'm curious about how you keep everyone engaged and moving forward.
Well, I spoke on a panel fairly recently, and the question was, what are the keys to your success? And I talked about how we wear a lot of hats as real estate agents. This is not something that is new, I'm sure, to you, considering how many real estate agents you are around and with whom you have conversations all the time. We do wear a lot of hats. And I would say the 2 hats that I wear the most: one, therapist, right? And it's not just therapy to our clients, it's often keeping calm the agent on the other side,
Yeah.
right? Because we're all in it together. You've got a client who wants the same thing that my client wants. So let's figure out how to like lay down the guns and do this together. And that can be difficult because there are, as I call them out there, and I won't name any names, the deal killers, right? The agents who, for better or worse, um, find a way to screw things up because of the stuff that's going on inside of them, heart and mind. So I would say that skill is something that I think can be learned, but I also think you're born with it. It's in your DNA to keep everybody calm because DJ, it's the most, in my view, one of the most emotionally charged endeavors is buying or selling a house. You're dealing with people who have lived in their houses for 20, 30 years sometimes. Even if it's 2 years, they've got their identity wrapped up into this entity because it is arguably the biggest thing they've ever invested in. Now they're selling it. How much am I going to get? How much can you figure out how to get me? Or they're looking to buy something, and that's a big life change. So there's a lot of psychology that goes into it, and then you got to keep all the bodies and minds and hearts calm on the other side, and that's a challenge. And I feel like I've had a lot of success with that. I have a business partner with whom I do a lot of business, and invariably there's a difficult client you're gonna have to deal with,
Always.
and he's not good at that. He's not good at dealing with those humans. So he says, send Josh into the living room. And Josh, it's like I'm the cooler, like at the
Yeah.
blackjack table. At the blackjack table, not a good thing. You don't want to be the cooler.
The cooler
But
is what people start losing. Yes.
yeah, yeah. But
But
in the living room,
it reduces the
yeah,
temperature of the room. Yeah.
that's exactly right. And that's what I have found is the key. One of the keys to my success is just keeping calm. Um, the other hats are interior design, architecture. I think it's so fascinating because many of us don't have law degrees, and we're dealing with a lot of legalese, and we're guiding people in ways that really walk that line. And I've learned my lesson. Fortunately, have never been in a lawsuit. I don't intend on being in a lawsuit because I'm smart enough to say, okay, that's not my wheelhouse. I'm gonna stay in my lane. Go talk to a real estate attorney. And that's, by the way, another piece of advice I would give to any real estate agent who either just got in or who's super experienced. I would say know when to say when and to direct your clients to talk to a real estate attorney, because it'll keep you out of court and your clients out of court. So anyway, yes, the therapist hat is one that I wear a lot, and actually I enjoy it.
Well, I think, realtors, it's funny. We talk a lot about skill based, uh, different skills that realtors need. But this idea of being able to lock in and really have a good awareness of what the client needs is not talked about as much. I mean, obviously we have the superficial parts where we need to know the specifics of what they want, what they want to buy, what they want to sell, all the haves, musts, and that, and have
Yeah,
nots.
yeah,
But then there is something about uh, making sure that client is maintaining their emotional regulation, right, throughout the
yeah.
transaction. And that's really an important thing because it is such a stressful event. How do you help clients stay calm?
Well, I'll tell you just a quick story. This just happened yesterday. I'm not kidding. I'm representing these buyers. We keep getting keep losing out in multiples. And we lost this most recent one yesterday. We got the news they didn't select your offer. Okay, boo-hoo, right?
Mhm.
And we were offered the backup position, right?
Hmm.
My clients, instinctively, it was like a knee jerk. No, screw them. They didn't want our offer. We don't want anything to do with them. To which I said, okay, hold on. And now it's therapy hat on,
Right.
therapist hat on. Let's keep our eye on the prize, because I have seen so many great things happen for people who didn't get what they wanted immediately, but decided, okay, you know what? We're going to take the backup position. And then the first position falls out and it goes straight to the backup. And they thank me every single time, because what I did was I talked them out of letting their ego get in the way of them getting the prize.
Right.
So that's one of the things that I say a lot is, let's stay focused and keep our eyes on the prize, and let's not let our egos, because truthfully, DJ, the person on the other side who's making the decision, they're long gone after the escrow closes. You're going to be in your house, enjoying that house, totally with no thought about who sold it to you or how it came to pass. So I think it's really acknowledging when those moments happen, those moments that are part of the human condition, those getting your ego bruised. I mean, it's the most human thing ever.
Absolutely.
Getting rejected is
It,
not a
it
good feeling.
It's not. It is. There's a rejection component to
Totally.
buying and selling real estate, and it's almost like asking a girl out on a first date and having her say no. And there's a little bit of a connection there, right? And so
Totally.
what we know is it doesn't feel good to be put in second place. But what you saying, trying to help the client understand, hey, second place isn't so bad.
No, and actually could be the path
Yeah.
to your succeeding.
Right.
A really good friend of mine gave me the best piece of advice. He said, when someone sends you an email or leaves you a voice message that pisses you off, that really gets you, um, don't respond. Give it
Right.
24 hours. We've all heard, a lot of us have heard this, and it's just the best. I mean, sometimes I'll write the email and I won't send it,
Yep.
and then the next morning, of course, like, oh God, I'm so happy I didn't send that email. You know, we
I,
all are fallible. We all are human. And if we just give ourselves a beat, just a beat, to let all that stuff run through our veins, then I think we'd all be a lot more successful. We get closer to the things that we want and need. And I think we'd live a happier life.
yeah, I always feel like there's this, anxiety that just kind of just permeates through us, and it comes out in the
Mhm.
form of energy, and it comes out in the form of, criticism or whatever it does. It's a hard thing for a human to endure, this anxiety, and so we push it out onto the world, and as a result we make other people anxious. And you're right, if we could all take a giant deep breath and
Yeah.
relax, we
Yeah.
would
Stay in the
be
boat. Keep
stay
them
in
in
the
the
boat.
boat, DJ.
You're right.
We're on
Yes.
life is a river, and it's just a there's going to be rapids, there's going to be maybe a waterfall. you
Yeah.
know just because you get your ego bruised, don't jump out of the boat. Let's
Right.
stay. So my job is that sort of boat captain, is to keep everybody calm and prevent people from jumping in the water.
It is a really, really important, and I know we're speaking metaphorically, but it is actually very practical, right? Because at the end of the day, people are, we have human reactions to human conditions. So we
Mhm.
have, a wrinkle happens in a transaction, and again, this is not talked about very often, but a wrinkle happens, the wrinkle gets smoothed out somehow. But what we really need to do is now figure out what was the emotional toll that took on the client. How are they feeling? How are they doing? And you
Totally.
seem to be really keyed into that. And ultimately, uh, you're right. We're really talking about feelings and how to manage, mitigate feelings.
That's right. That's right. And of course, again, I'm thinking about the more experienced buyers, um, who are quicker to deal with the transactional side of the deal, but they get every bit as emotional,
Yeah,
sometimes more hot-headed. So it's
sure.
just a different type of therapy. I mean, we're talking about therapy a lot, but I really do think that it is such an important component to being successful as a real estate agent. And again, it's something you can learn through trials and tribulations of doing deals and dealing with people. Um, I mentioned, um, my wonderful buyer's agent. His name is Evan Ferrante, and he's a new agent. He's been at it now 2 years. And we had a situation recently where Evan was doing a showing, and the house is actually occupied by a tenant who does not want to leave the house. This person knows that the house is going to sell, and she took Evan outside right after the showing and just started bawling her eyes
Oh.
out. And so Evan calls me, and I said, "Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to real estate, pal." And so, she's like sobbing on his shoulder,
Oh,
and I'm like, "So what did you do?" And he said, "I consoled her
yeah.
and told her everything's going to be fine." And if I had, I mean, DJ has so many stories, you know, like that. It's been actually 20 years. I got my license in 2003. And I think of it, you mentioned 15 years earlier. I think of it as 15 years because the first 5 years of that 20 was all training day.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
It
People think they
trial
can get, yeah,
trial by fire.
yeah,
I and yeah, and a lot. Let's talk about wisdom, because I think that's, you have a 20-year career. I think, when you get to 20 years, you now get to, like you were saying earlier, I've seen other transactions end up, for example, we're now in second place on our offer, but I've seen this work out where this actually might get accepted.
yeah.
How important is wisdom, to help, keep your clients, engaged?
So important. I mean, look, when we're doing this matchmaking, when we're putting a deal together, we're putting two people who don't know each other, right, at all, together. And we've got to figure out how to foster trust very quickly. Um, in the same way, I have to make sure that they trust me and my
Yeah.
ability to do that. And so, knowledge and wisdom, not just about market data. I was an analyst right out of school for a tech company that ended up selling for a lot of money. That was my first job, and I do have that analytical OCD thing that helps me analyze markets and break down numbers for clients. That's part of it, right? They need to trust that you know the inventory. They need to trust that you have a handle on what value means, all the variables in the equation of value. Um, and there are a number of them, that you have a handle on all of them and then can speak intelligibly about those variables and the whole equation so that they trust, okay, Josh can not only keep our emotions in check so that we
Yeah.
can keep moving forward, but also we trust that he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So knowledge and an understanding of the market in which you're selling and working is huge in the pursuit of, again, fostering trust in your clients.
Yeah, you have to know the inventory, yeah, and you do, of course, and it's really something that, 500 episodes in, has yet to be refuted by any of our guests. It's like, study the market as if it were the most precious document, on the planet, because
Yeah,
and it's never changing document. But study the MLS, 30, minutes, an hour, 2 hours a day, just to make sure you know everything about your local market. And within a year, you're going to be so incredibly knowledgeable if you put a little bit of that discipline in place, that
Yeah.
you're gonna leapfrog over other agents.
Yeah, and it's important to put the data in context, meaning it's not just what's happening right now. It's how things have changed over time. So often when I'm doing my analyses for clients who ask me how much is my house worth today, I think it's important to give them an opportunity to see how things have changed. So I'll go 2 or 3 years back so that they have it's again that teaching element. They have an understanding of where we're coming from. And I think now more than ever, that's hugely important because we've just come out of arguably the craziest time in the housing market in the last 100 years. I mean, I would argue ever. What COVID did to the housing market was unbelievable, and I still think we are, feeling latent effects. I think that right now, people have settled in to what I call the normalcy, the normal market, right? Where I think for a time after COVID settled and rates started to come up, people were whining and crying, bloody murder about, oh, well, money was so cheap before. Rates were, I mean, why can't we have that again? And again, therapist hat, you've got to get over it and move
Right.
on
Right.
because you want to buy a house. This person wants to sell you that house. The only way forward is to accept what's now.
Yeah.
Accept what we're dealing with now. And so that's settled a little bit. And I'm surprised in the face of a lot of uncertainty in the market, not just the housing market, but the broader markets, that there's still many buyers out there who are making offers. As I said, we're going into multiples against a lot of people. And I think the one variable left standing, and I'm sure DJ, you've heard this from other real estate agents, is in the value equation is a lack of inventory.
Yeah.
Right. What surprises me again is the demand. But I think psychologically people have gotten over what was.
Mm-hmm.
They're subscribing to the philosophy that, okay, rates are what they are and they will eventually come down. So let's keep going. And let's, my buddy here.
Josh's cat has just made an appearance on our show.
Yeah, cameo. Let's refi. Rates are bound to come down. So let's refi and keep our eye on the prize.
Yeah, it's how have you been working with buyers presently that are sitting on the sidelines? Are these the sort of things you're saying to them, who are worried about interest rates, and just is it as simple as date the rate, marry the house? Is that kind of the philosophy, or
That's
are you seeing buyers pulling back?
I like that. Date the rate, marry the house. I love that.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of that. My my style is, and I think a lot of people who know me and have come to know how I work, realize that I don't push very hard. I think of myself in a way like I'm the anti-agent, if you will. I am not trying to sell anybody anything. So if there is reticence or fear, let's deal with that first. There will always be a house. I mean, if we look back at history, you get pretty comfortable understanding that there are a gajillion houses out there. And I don't think a good thing to do ever is to push someone in to something too quickly, or at all for that matter. If you feel most comfortable, dipping your toe in or sitting in the shallow end so that you can kind of get your bearings, then let's do that. You may miss some opportunities, but again, there will be others. So I think people now, again, there are a great many people who have subscribed to the idea that we're just going to rent right now and wait until rates come down. Fine, no problem. Let's do that. And then there are other people who are ready to go. And so again, I'm using this boat analogy too much, but there are a bunch of different personalities who come from a lot of different walks of life in this boat. And my job is to understand who my audience is, understand to the extent that I can their fears, their wants, their desires, their needs, and then figure out how to give that to them and be there with them in that moment. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. It's really the consultancy sort of approach.
That's right.
And you said it very elegantly, perfectly. It's, hey, I see you, I hear you, I know you. Here's where we're aiming, and it includes not just the numbers; it includes the feelings and the numbers, and of course the property. And all of the specifics, and we're going to aim towards it, and we're going to keep moving forward, and we're going to calibrate along the way. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, there's another facet to that that we haven't talked about, and that's disclosure. Right? When real estate agents in the real estate world, we talk about disclosures, we immediately think of disclosing, a seller disclosing all they know about a house to a buyer, right? Super important, super obvious, I think. But there's also disclosures that happen between you and your clients, right? And so if we're going to be there, and I'm going to be there in that moment with you, whatever moment you're in, I also am going to show you the data and disclose to you what the market looks like so that you understand all the opportunities and opportunity costs, right? If you're going to sit and wait. And so that you can never say to yourself, Josh did not tell us that if we sat and waited, that we would miss out on X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So I think there's two things: be there in the moment, but also make sure they understand what's going on and what they may be walking away from or getting themselves into or out of, so that, again, they know their eyes are wide open.
I love this idea of like scenario planning. It's essentially what you're doing, and you're giving people visions of futures that they can walk around in and see how they find them to be comfortable or not. Again, we're talking a little bit more ethereally. Is that a word? I think it is.
Yeah.
Ethereally,
Yeah.
more than normal. But I think it's important because we are, obviously we're just transacting homes, but what we're really talking about is all the emotional components that go into the decisions. And there's so many decisions that go into not even just buying a home, but living in a home. It's so critical to us as human beings. It really does become this important thing where, as you as the agent can really get a sense of what that family or individual client needs and be able to deliver to them exactly the experience they're looking for.
I mean, that's it, right? That's the key to building, I think, a successful real estate career that's lasting. If you're just in it to do a deal, I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be fun and it's not going to last very long. But if you are there with them and you are able to, I think, boil down to their essence all the questions you just mentioned, all the boxes that need to be checked, if you can guide them through that process, then you're not just an agent anymore. You're a friend.
Yeah.
You're an advisor. And again, that part of the business is the part that I enjoy the most, and that I think is it what is attributable to most of my success, for sure. And that's what I would say to any new agent. And it's difficult sometimes. I would say to them, try not to focus on the deal. Of course, you need to do that. Focus on the client. Focus on the human part of it, not the transactional part of it. And that person will will feel like you're there for them, right?
Everybody wants to be taken. I shouldn't say everyone. Most people want to feel taken care of, and
Mm-hmm.
but one of the ways you can demonstrate care is through all this extra effort through real estate, right? So you can constantly reach out to clients. Hey, let's talk about where are you guys thinking about the next 3 years. What are you thinking about the next 5 years? Here's where I see, here's an opportunity I see for you. Here's something, again, just having these future conversations. It's actually very exciting to have
It
those kind of
is.
conversations with clients, and because they're going to be excited about it. Of course, everyone's typically excited about something in their future,
Yeah.
and you can begin to plan that with them. I think that's a really interesting approach.
I totally agree. It's huge. And again, for newer agents who are not, they haven't yet experienced the kind of success they know in their hearts, in some cases, they deserve and they will have, it hasn't come yet. And so it's harder to focus on those more, as you said, ethereal things,
Yeah.
and not just get caught in the trees. You know what I mean? Focus more on the forest. And I think the best agents, new or old, are those that have the ability to focus on the trees and the forest. Because I'll tell you, a lot of our clients don't have that ability. They've got blinders on, emotional blinders. So totally agree with you, DJ.
Well, this is a great place. Look, Josh Myler is the guest. He is an incredibly successful and amazing, connected, passionate agent in Beverly Hills with the agency. Please visit him at joshmyler.com. If any of our audience has people that move in and out of the Beverly Hills area, and you are looking to work with Josh or maybe refer business to or from him, he would be honored to speak with you. So definitely reach out to him. Also follow him on Instagram, Josh Sale. I'm actually going to spell it Josh. Actually, no, I'm not going to spell it because I'm going to put it in the description. So I don't have it in front of me. So my apologies there. But Josh, this was a wonderful time. On behalf of our audience, we want to thank you for coming on our show. You were amazing. Really, really impassioned speech. I had a wonderful time. And on behalf of our audience, and on behalf of Josh and myself to our audience, we want to say thank you for making it all the way to the end of the episode. As always, please remember to tell a friend. Think of one other agent that could benefit from hearing from Josh. We did a lot of good work today on this in this conversation. So please send them a link to the podcast. KeepingItRealPod.com is our website. You can follow us on all the social channels as well. Josh, we appreciate you, and we are excited to talk to you in the future. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you so much, DJ. This is a real pleasure. I'm totally honored to be a part of it. Thank you for inviting me to do this.